Hello there, guys. This is Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, and today I'm coming to you with my April wrap-up. I'm going to do it in stages throughout the month. So today is Thursday, April 10th. It is, I think, 2:53 in the afternoon. My phone screen has a little dot on it now, so I can't read it in that corner. Hopefully my phone screen doesn't break. But anyways, I usually will I will always include timestamps in the description down below. So you can check it. You can skip books down there if you want. You can skip to the book you're most interested if you want. If you're just interested in like one book review, go for it. More power to you. So I'm going to wrap up everything that I've read so far, and then later in the month, I will do my May TBR. So without further ado, let's get into it. So unfortunately, we're going to start off with a DNF just because I have it open. And then we'll move on to the things that I've read and actually really enjoyed, which was a lot of other things. So we're going to start off with The Lion Women of Tehran by Marjan Kamali. This is not bad. I am not really a historical fiction reader generally. There's been a couple books that really hit it out of the park for me. Like Memoirs of Geisha, for example. And I feel like there was another one more recently that I read that I was like, this is so good. But unfortunately, this one just wasn't blowing me away. I know it's like, best of, I don't know, Goodreads, I don't know, Book Talk, I don't know. People love it. I know. I don't really get the hype. Not that it's bad, like I said. I just don't really care for any of the characters, to be honest with you. I don't care about them. So we're really following two girls in Tehran, and they're growing up in, like, I want to say the 70s, somewhere around there. And one of the girls, her father is a communist. And so she is always like very political, advocating for change, wants to see Iran modernize, and they feel like it's modernizing. Like they feel like they have more rights. Women have more rights now than they ever have. Like they both are like planning to go to college and doing really well in school, and their families are supporting them in that. However, there's still a lot of problems. And some of it seems like it's almost like a facade, that women really have these rights. Like some of it is just like, well, the husband is well educated, so he wants his wife to be well educated. So we're still basically her whole goal is marriage and children, but we're gonna let her be really educated because her husband wants her to be, that kind of a thing. So yeah. One of the girls, we're starting off when they're kids. Like, we start off the book when they are kids. At the very beginning, there's a hint that their friendship is going to crumble at some point. There's going to be a big breaking point in their relationship. So that's part of why I didn't like this, honestly. I think it's just a trope that I don't like. Letting us know from the beginning, and I think historical fiction is really prone to this, there's going to be some interpersonal conflict way far in the future. And we're just going to make you anxious till you get there. And it's like a horror movie where you're like, every time you're always jumping, thinking, is this it? Is this the moment of horror that we've been building up to? That's like how it feels reading this. For someone with anxiety, it's a little tense. But for somebody without anxiety, it's probably just interesting. I don't know. You would have to ask other people, but it seems like people love it. So I think it works for other people. So the girls meet when they're really young and become friends, even though they are worlds apart. One of the girls becomes really politically active. The other one is like, don't talk to me about politics. I don't want to know. Like, please do not. I feel like this is a message to all the white women of the world who are like, don't tell me anything about politics. I don't want to talk about it. I just want to save our relationship and not talk about politics. Which I understand the criticism of that, because people who are suffering, like, they don't have a option. They have to be involved in politics, because if they're not, they are missing human rights. So in their case in Iran, it makes complete sense why the one friend is like, why aren't you interested? She doesn't ever really blame her friend, but she's like obviously disappointed in her friend who is not interested in getting involved with politics. So it feels like very much like calling out all the white women who are like, I just don't want to be involved in politics. But yeah, I also understand that perspective of not wanting to be involved, because for me, it's a lot of work. It's like a lot of work. And what am I really going to do from home? Post on social media? I'm homebound. Do I really need to be involved in politics? No. Is that my job? No. Yeah. So I think even though I like idealism can be attractive, I feel like this book is like really idealistic in that sense and also causing me anxiety. And so I'm just not enjoying it. It's not necessarily a problem with the book. I think in another person's hands, this book would be a banger, but I'm not really a historical fiction person. I don't really, care. So that's it. That's it for that. Very, I think, unpopular opinion, but it is my opinion. So honestly, there's other books. I was listening to it on audiobook and I was like progressively picking up the speed. If I could just listen to it on 3 times speed and finish it, I probably would. But these days I can't listen to things that fast in the evening. And this also, I can't listen to this at night when I'm like coloring or whatever, because it's not a relaxing book. So it's like too emotional for me. So, a lot of times when I'm listening or reading fiction, it needs to be really relaxing for me, because that's why I listen to and read fiction. I don't listen to and read fiction to necessarily improve myself. And I feel like that's what this book is. It's like trying to teach you something. And I'm like, I would rather read a nonfiction. That's generally my opinion about books that have a really strong message. I'm just like, would rather read a memoir, would rather read an essay, would rather read nonfiction about this topic. But like I said, honestly, as far as characterization, this is not bad for historical fiction. In fact, I think this is pretty good characterization for historical fiction. For a part of the reason I don't read a lot of historical fiction is I just feel like the characters are often rough. And I'm like, why are these two people hanging together? They have so much conflict. They never work out their conflict. And it's not really about that. I feel like the conflict between the friends, like I've read half of the book and we don't really, that's not really what it's about. And I guess I think it's not bad though. Like I said, it's not a bad book. I'm just DNFing it because it's not for me. So, okay, next we're going to talk about Flower Fairies of the Spring. This is adorable. I got this from Tiffany's spring recommendations video, and I'm really glad that she recommended it. Thank you, Tiffany. This is super cute. So it has all these illustrations of these fairies alongside poetry about the flower that these fairies are representing or hanging out. They're always holding the flowers or, leaning against the flowers or, whatever. And so I thought this was really cute, and I feel like it would be especially great if you want to learn the names of flowers. This could help you learn them, and the little poems kind of tell you when they'll appear, when to start looking for them. And I totally want to read there's other books in this series. I think there's one maybe for each season, and I would totally love to read them because I feel like I will get a better handle on flowers I'm seeing at the changes of the seasons. So I loved this. Thank you, Tiffany. Next, we have Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is a graphic novel that actually takes place after the show, which I really had a hard time figuring out where am I supposed to start with the graphic novels after finishing the show. But this worked great. I feel like they're slightly older. Like, I think it takes place at the very end of the show, but I just feel like they're slightly older. They're definitely drawn to look somewhat older. And they talked about some of the art changes they made. Like, they made their heads smaller than in the show. And maybe that's why they seem older to me. Because, when kids are young, they have, bigger heads. But in proportion to their bodies. This, I was not expecting it to be so deep, but it's very deep. Okay, I know I just said that I don't prefer fiction that is trying to teach me something, but this was really an interesting exploration of ideas of colonization and the complexities of decolonizing. And so if you're at all familiar with the show, I don't want to actually spoil the show, but there are 4 nations. There's I guess there's 3 nations, really. There's waterbenders, Water Nation, Fire Nation, Earth Nation. Water, fire, earth. And then the Air Nation no longer exists, but Avatar, the Airbender, Aang is his name. He is a remnant of the Airbenders. And the whole show is about how it's been a century since anybody saw the Avatar, but there's this prophecy that he's going to bring peace to all of the nations. And so he reappears at the beginning of the show and proceeds to get to work on his mission. So this takes place after, so I don't want to spoil anything. But we're dealing with the after effects of the show, and there's some decolonization happening. And it really examines sort of the ethics of that and what can be done about it. Because since one nation has colonized another nation for so long, this other nation is like, get out of here. We don't want you here anymore, to the colonizers. But the colonizers are like, our people have now lived here for a century. We have families who are, of the colonized people, and now the colonized and colonizers are making their own culture. And so it's kind of examining the complexities of the issue, and I really appreciated how well, and it was super, super thoughtful. Let me see if I have any other notes that I wanted to mention. I really took like quite a few notes. But they are. Okay. I said it's a gripping exploration of identity and colonization and the ethical dilemmas that come as a result of it. Yeah, identity was hard too, because like the Airbender's like, I don't want my identity to be blended with anybody else's identity. I want our identity to be like I can't think of the right word, but blurred. You know what I mean? Like, I just want it to stand as its own. Like, he would like distinct nations, but then others are arguing these nations aren't distinct anymore in these colonized areas. It really talks about how this is an issue for a new age. It's not something that they've seen in their history, and their generation has to deal with it. The older generation doesn't have the answers for them, and they ask the older generation, what should we do? And the older generation's answers are less than helpful. So yeah, really about taking on the problems of your time and handling them, because they are a new problem that you can't necessarily fix it or solve it by looking at history. There's like a flexibility to it. It doesn't feel like you're reading a treatise, in like a bad way. Ooh, I think I just dropped something, just fell from my eye. It doesn't feel like you're reading, let's say, a boring treatise. I would say this is a really interesting treatise. And there's nothing particularly special about like the dialogue. Like, it's just kind of goofy, just like the show. I was never like, oh, this show is the funniest, or I don't know. There's nothing particularly special to the art style, but it is in color, which is great. And I did draw a little bit of it. I particularly love this like Earthbender. What is her name? I can't remember. But yeah, I really love the way she's drawn. She's always like very straight and strong looking, and she's also blind, I believe. So yeah, it's really, really interesting stuff. I loved this. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. But I keep seeing Little Book Owl Cat, I think her name is. I've seen her reading them in vlogs previously, and so that always kind of made me curious about them. Okay, I don't think there was anything. Yeah, I just totally the struggle. Oh yeah, and the struggle to know good from evil. That's another theme in this one, where it's like one character is like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's right in this situation, and there isn't like a shortcut to figure it out. People had to talk and be very understanding and patient with each other, and then all sides were heard and it was resolved. There wasn't like one side that came in with the right idea. Everybody's ideas changed because they all had to compromise. So, but And it was a struggle. It's not easy to figure out what's right in a given situation. And that's what I love. It really grapples with the fact that good and evil, it's not always easy. Sometimes you have to think really hard about it. What is right in this situation? It's very like complex and morally gray. And I just wasn't expecting that because I figured this was like middle grade. Not that middle grade can't be deep. It can be. But yeah, it was excellent. Yeah, I think that's mainly it. Next, moving on to Lore Olympus, Volume 1 by Rachel Smith. I finally finished it. It took me a long time because I can only read it during the day. I enjoyed this so much. I do have like very mixed feelings about recommending it and even necessarily continuing. It feels, I think I mentioned this, kind of, it feels like I'm at a nightclub when I'm reading this. And I don't mean like we're just gonna go fun and have go have fun with our friends and dance. I mean like a nightclub with strippers. That's what I feel like this is. And the main character is like very innocent still. Like she's very young. She's reached sexual maturity, but she's like mentally and socially very protected. Persephone. It's like a story of Persephone meeting Hades. It's a retelling of that. And Tiffany said it best, I think. When I was like, it feels kind of sleazy, she's like, I think that fits the theme. I was like, yeah, actually you're right, it totally does. When you know the stories of the Greek gods, it is like a sleaze fest for sure. Everybody's sleeping with everybody, so it definitely, I think, does fit theme. That made me actually feel better about it. I haven't decided if I'm gonna read it yet, but the art is so good. Like I would be a little bit embarrassed to show people some of the art. Like I hope my mom sometimes comes and thumbs through the books I'm reading. Mom, don't thumb through this one. You'll probably be like, flaming blush, and like, what are you reading? But no, my mom's not really like that. But I don't recommend it, Mom. If you're watching this. But the art is so beautiful, guys. I really am having the freaking best time drawing it. Like the expressions, it's really funny. It's so entertaining, like massively entertaining. And my sketchbook is just full of drawings from this. I'm like trying to find one of the ones that I drew, but I have so many note tabs. Like you wouldn't necessarily expect me to have so many note tabs on like a romantasy graphic novel. I drew this one. I just like, isn't that a great expression? Yeah, it's really like interesting because the settings are often like very dark of each scene, and then the gods themselves they're kind of luminescent, and so they just pop off the page. Like look at this, like super dark setting, but like Persephone just pops. I had the best time drawing this, and I wrote it in here. I keep going back and forth. It's a DNF. It's a series DNF. My review says that. And then I ordered volume 2. So maybe it's not. We'll see if I have time. Lately, I've been really struggling to relax and been really stressed. And so we're kind of like, well, maybe I need to like take some time during the day and relax and read just so my brain is like primed for reading at night. Because I do sleep best if I can read at night. But lately, I haven't been able to read at night. I've been too anxious and stressed. So yeah, maybe I need to, having romance and easy things that I can just hop right into during the day, maybe I need more of that in my life. Maybe I just need more relaxation in my life, I don't know. So we're going to try it out. Maybe it would be okay to read volume 2 for that reason. I'm a little bit like convicted about reading it, to be honest with you. So we'll see where I go with it. Okay. The last thing is Anathem. I do not feel ready to talk about this yet, but it's the time because I did finish it last week. I'm coming to you a little bit late because I was in a flare last week and I just could not like put together an outfit and makeup and everything. And today even I'm all sweaty because I've been sitting outside and I'm all sunscreeny. So I didn't change. I just wore my walking clothes and tried to sort of do my hair and everything sort of to look like sort of decent for the video. So I tried. I don't know how really well it worked today, but regardless, I'm rereading this now. Because most of the second half I listened to because I couldn't read for like, again, a solid week or more when I was trying to like focus on finishing this. And so I just listened to it, which I still enjoyed a lot. But listening is like a 3-star experience because I'm missing so much. Whereas reading it physically is like it's literally a 5-star experience. This is going to be one of my favorites of the year. I loved this. Reading it, it feels like you're talking with a really smart person and he's taking you along for the ride and explaining things to you. And it's okay if you don't really get it. Like, it's cool. It's so funny because I just reread the scene last night where the main character is being talked to by his smarter friend. And he's like, yeah, he must know that he's smarter than me, but he never like acts like that. He just completely believes in my ability to understand what he's trying to express to me. And so he just explains it to me and I end up understanding it. And that's how I feel like with this book. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of physics and science and philosophy. And I'm like, whoosh. But I think he knows that about his audience. Like it's not that he doesn't think we're smart. It's just that he knows he has spent a lot of time researching and reading about this, and maybe not all of his audience has. And he says multiple times too, like, how useful is it to the world if we have these really complex ideas about what is true, but then the world can't even understand it? Is that really useful to the world? They have their own explanations that maybe aren't factually correct in every sense, but that's a lot more useful for them than spending their entire life cooped up in a monastery and reading in order to understand what the true nature of reality is. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. It's like very, this book, we're following a very privileged elite of intellectual people who are like very focused on like reading and the intellect and studies. They're academics. So they're kind of like a non-religious monkhood, an order of monks. There are actually religious people in here, but that was actually my only, I think, criticism of the book, other than the first 100 pages, which were one giant info dump. That was really rough. But other than that, my only complaint is that he just says it over and over and over again, how few people there are in this monkhood, so to speak. They're called maths, who live in these monastery maths. There are so few people who believe in God, and he just says it over and over and over. And so I feel like he was really, I'm rereading it now and I'm seeing there's even more subtext to the conversation. But listening to it, it was like, yeah, we get it. I get that you think that only uneducated people believe in God. I get that. So it was a bit patronizing, honestly, if you are a person of faith. But honestly, even though that was a mild annoyance, it didn't affect my enjoyment of the story hardly ever, like 0.3% of the time. Because there's like, how many words? There's like just almost 1,000 pages in this book. So, if 13 sentences in this book are devoted to, and, very few of us believed in God. If there's 13 sentences about that out of 1,000 pages, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I am rereading it, and we'll see. Maybe there might be some more subtext that I sort of missed on that. But regardless, the conversations in here I really enjoyed. Tiffany compared this to The Name of the Rose, and that is such an apt comparison. It reminds me so much of The Name of the Rose because of the setting in a monastery, so to speak. Of course, in The Name of the Rose, a lot of the conversations were like actually religious in nature, whereas this is like scientific in nature. Of course, there are a lot of one of the things that he said in here was like, oh, if somebody did a proof and proved that God exists, we would all just say, oh, nice proof, and start believing in God. And I don't think that's true, because like I said, there are people who believe in God in this book. And there are lots of scientists in our day and age who actually do believe in God as well. It's just that, yeah, you can't necessarily prove it mathematically. Like, there are some really good pointers to kind of help you with that faith, but it is still faith. You know, it's not like, you know, God is speaking to us in our day and age in the flesh. He did come down and speak to us in the flesh in Christ, but, you know, this book, though, is not set on Earth. It's set on a different planet. I don't want to spoil. There's things that I want to say, but I won't here because that would be a spoiler. Anyways, regardless, Jesus never brought up. The religion is kind of loose, I would say, in this book, because that's not really what it's exploring. It's not that it's not there, but it's just not very important. That's not really the point, at least not as far as I can tell. I think the point is other things, but I still need to reread, like I said, the second half, so I'm working on that. I'm on page 662 out of like 950 something, so we'll see if I can finish a second reread by the time of our live show. But I just enjoyed this so much. There is intense action. However, most of it is just thinking and talking. There's not a lot of action. Stuff happens, but it's mostly thinking and talking stuff. It's not like huge action scenes very often. Like there are, like I said, there are action scenes, but it's not that kind of book. It's like think your way through it type of book, but it rewards thinking through it so much, and it's funny. Like it's really like the story being told from the eyes of a nerd. And if you aren't enjoying his narration, which he is kind of like he has the very 20-year-old problem of syndrome of thinking he knows almost everything there is to know. Like, he just kind of has that vibe. He has that know-it-all vibe, which, I mean, probably most 20-year-olds have had that thought. It's fine. But other than that, like, he's a pretty humble guy, I would say. And he kind of walks you through these conversations. He wants you to be like, yeah, I'm kind of like a normal guy. Like, I'm not one of the super smart guys. I was just lucky enough to be chosen for this life. So I enjoyed this so much, guys. I really can't express how much. However, if you get through the first, say, 200 pages and you are not excited, it's probably not for you. The first 100 pages, everybody admits, really rough. But if you get through the next 100 pages and you're like, I still don't care, I don't like it, I'm not interested, don't bother like with the other 800 pages, because they don't change much. The second 100 pages is very representative of the rest of the book. I don't know why in the first 100 pages, I don't really know exactly why, but why he wrote it the way that he did, because it was really rough. But yeah, there's a lot of like terminology that is given a new name, like movies and cameras are given new names, and I can't even think of some of the other ones, but there's a lot of things that it's like, oh, that's what that is. It's just a camera. You know, it's just a phone. That's another one. Phones are called G-Jaws. You know, it's just like, that was annoying for people. And yeah, I would say just give it a shot. I think that's the only way to know if it's like really your thing. Read the first 200 pages. And honestly, I did listen to a lot of it, and you can still enjoy it just on audio. And Rich, the one who recommended this, the one that is the reason why we are doing this Anathem read along, he has just listened to it and loved it. It's like, it seems like it's his favorite book. So, but for me, definitely reading it physically or immersion reading it has been the way to go. It's much, much better, in my opinion, doing that. Okay, moving on. The last thing that I finished, I think, I just remembered this one at the last moment, so hopefully I'm not forgetting anything else, but The Woods at Midwinter by Susanna Clarke. I read this because even though it was getting terrible reviews, Tiffany told me it was very short. So I gave it a try anyways. And because I had to, like, I've loved John and the Stranger, Mr. Norrell, and Piranesi so much, I had to at least try. And it was on Amazon for like $17.99 last I looked, which is crazy because it's super short. I mean, it is like, I think Tiffany called it a picture book, and that's pretty close. Like, it's probably the length of 2 picture books. Maybe there are picture books with that much text. I don't know. But it was so short. It felt incredibly incomplete. It was so disappointing. This idea needed to marinate a lot longer. So the idea behind this is it's about a saint who wants to bring healing to, is it the natural world and humanity, man. And that idea I only knew because of the author's note. The author's note was the best part of it, which I think Tiffany also said. She said that in the author's note, and I was like, huh? You didn't see that? Nobody said that. Nothing was spelled out. Probably the most important part of the story wasn't shown. It was just like left off. And you're supposed to, I guess, make that leap in assumption. Like, without the author's note, I would have been like, where's the rest of this? The author's note was interesting, though. Like, she talked about some of the Borges stories that inspired Piranesi. So I was like, oh, I should read those. The Library of Battle and The House of Asterion. But yeah, I felt like it was extremely juvenile writing, full of stereotypes. Put on your bonnet or your head will get cold. I mean, it's like she forgot to include the interesting parts and just put all the boring bits. And it's also very like American woman trying to sound British is like the vibe I got from her language. And it was written like a children's books language, like super short sentences, declarative sentences, describing one thing at a time. Like, just super boring. The thing is, this is how my first drafts often look. When I'm writing a story, I often will draft something out and it'll look a lot like this. But I'm like, this is my rough draft. And she just basically published what feels like a rough draft. Whereas, like, I could see, like, Piranesi or John the Strange and Mr. Owl. I don't know. I'm, like, reading into this entirely. But I could see her first drafts of those reading a lot like this. But then she took years and years to hone them and revise them and make them what they are today. And this book, she was just like, no, it's done. And I'm like, no, it wasn't done yet. You should have kept this one in the oven for a while. That's just my opinion. But yeah, lots of stereotypes. A church is a sort of wood. A wood is a sort of church. They're the same thing, really. How are those two things the same thing? But yet I've heard that before. Like, going fishing is my version of going to church. That's not going to church. That's not. It's different. Church is about corporate worship and corporate prayer and learning about the faith and being around other believers and encouraging them and making friends, being the body of Christ with the body of Christ. It's not about going on fishing on your own. Even if you talk to God, that's not what church is. It's different. I don't know. That's a pet peeve of mine when people say things like that. However, there was like one interesting thought other than the Borges thing that I was like, okay. She mentioned saints are not very well understood any longer. Like I said, it's about a saint. We think of them as living lives that are limited, lives of pointless self-denial, when the truth is almost the opposite. Saints are almost frighteningly free. Saints do shocking things. It's what makes them saints. That was interesting because that reads very Catholic to me. And I think that she's right. Saints do very shocking things. So that was like, oh, okay. I mean, that's fine. It just wasn't very present in the book. She also says that the saint in this book is probably what we would call neurodivergent today. So she's maybe on the spectrum. So I don't know. But there are other ways to be neurodivergent. She just didn't spell it out. So I don't know, guys. It was so disappointing. If you have different thoughts, let me know. Did anybody love The Woods at Midwinter? I would be shocked if anybody did. I still want to try her stories the Ladies of Grace do, though, because but anyways, I think that's everything. Yeah, I'll talk to you next weekend. Hello there, guys. Today is April 23rd. It's a Wednesday. It's 9:44 in the morning. My mother-in-law is coming over really soon, around noon, and we're gonna watch a new K-drama. We're starting a new K-drama. We both really enjoyed Crash Landing on You a lot. And so I don't know what we're going to watch next. I have a couple to run by her and we're going to try them out. But first, I need to get some work done. I've been having a health flare recently, so I haven't been able to film. It's really late in the month for a second month update. So I normally film more than this on my wrap-ups, and I also have been just waiting to film a work video. So it's really exciting that I'm finally feeling up to doing that. So hopefully by the time I finish my hair, I will still feel up to it. Doing all of my makeup and getting ready and stuff, it's quite a drain on my body, which is why I just don't do it anymore unless I'm filming. But regardless, we're here. We're ready to go. So let's talk. First of all, I did get a really nice gift from Mimi Scirocco. Thank you, Mimi. I only put this on my wish list a week ago, and it suddenly showed up. I was like, did I order this accidentally instead of adding it to my list? Nope. Mimi saw it on my list and sent it to me. Thank you so much. This is beautiful and it's gigantic. It's definitely bigger than I thought it was going to be, and I'm so happy with it because I was running out of space in my journals. So thank you. I haven't decided yet what I'll use this for. I have a semi-new prayer journal and a semi-new, maybe my Korean journal. I might use it for that, but I also do need a new journal soon for my anxiety journaling. So I have a new prayer journal, so I'm good on that front, but I'm really excited. I think I might do this for my Korean learning because I really go through notebooks for that. But we'll see. I might end up, because that's kind of disposable, so maybe I should do anxiety journaling. I don't know. It's just such a nice journal. I haven't decided. Thank you, Mimi. And it's just so bright and cheery. I'm so excited about it. So thank you. Okay, moving on to the things that I finished, that I read. So first we have Jesus and the Jewish Roots of, this is the Eucharist. Okay, well actually I didn't read the Jewish Roots of the Eucharist. I read the Jewish Roots of Mary. So this is actually the wrong book title. Sorry about that. But is this the same author? Anyway, Jesus and the Jewish Roots of Mary. This was a book that I heard about from Faith in Books' Discord. I should have, I forgot to put mousse in my hair so that it wouldn't be so fly away. Oh well, it's just going to be what it is today. Anyways, I read this because Faith recommended it. I honestly didn't know why Catholics revere Mary. I really was I was really confused by that. She's not even in the Bible that much. She is a little bit, but, I guess not more than most people. Most people come in and out of the Bible. They're not recurring characters that you hear a ton from. She's definitely in the Bible, but I feel like there's only so much we can extrapolate. The Bible gives us some of the bare bones stuff, It doesn't detail everything unless you're reading Luke, then it details everything. But usually the authors of the Gospels, they are very focused on presenting Jesus to different audiences, and they're answering questions about Jesus. They're not trying to do a whole full portrait of, other people in ancient times. It's really all about Jesus. So I was really why is Mary so revered? I think she's special, just like I think the disciples were special. I've always, thought that. Everybody who's mentioned in the Bible is special because they are part of God's redemptive story for humankind. However, I did not get the Mary hype. So I read this book in order to learn about it. And I'll put the title in the description down below. I do always use timestamps. I forget if I said that earlier, but so if you want to actually check it out for yourself, I'll have it down below so that you can do that. So this was interesting. I feel like as a general overall picture of it, even though I feel like I definitely understand now more why I understand. Ouch, just burned my ear. How I did it again. I now understand what Catholics say about Mary. I still don't necessarily understand the why. So his whole point in this book was to point out the Jewish roots. So he took a lot of like Jewish scripture and showed why he thought Mary was special. Unfortunately, I just didn't think it was all that scriptural, even though he mentioned some scripture and he mentions it in ways that I'd never heard it like mentioned before, like interesting things, like comparing Mary to Rachel, the first wife of, is it Jacob? Yeah. Anyway, he compares her to Jacob, which was interesting, and talking about how, Rachel still prays for the church, in heaven. And so, he calls her like a new Rachel, a second Rachel. He also calls her a second Eve. And so as a result of her being the second Eve, it must mean she's sinless, because otherwise she wouldn't be a better Eve than the first one, because the first Eve was sinful. And so some of the things that he talked about were Mary's sin. Some of the Catholic dogmas about Mary that he talked about were Mary being sinless, which I don't see in scripture. I didn't feel like that was proved at all, unfortunately. I just don't think that's anywhere actually in the Bible. So, but his argument, from what I remember, was basically that because she's the second Eve, she must be sinless. Otherwise, she's not better than the first Eve. The second Adam is Christ, and the second Eve would be Mary. And so if the second Adam is sinless, so must be the second Eve. That was kind of the argument, the inference argument. And I just don't think that that's, I think that Mary was an ordinary human and God used her abundantly, which is amazing, but I definitely don't think that she was sinless. But anyway, so there was that one. And then there's the belief that Mary is the ark. She's the missing ark of God. And I had never heard this before. This was really interesting. And he uses some scripture in Revelation. There's a particular chapter in Revelation that he references a lot for this. And he says basically, the ark is missing. We don't know where it is, but his guess is that it's in heaven. And the argument about this was that Mary ascended to heaven and didn't actually die like a normal person. That she was like Enoch, just went to heaven, that kind of a thing. Also not in scripture that I can see. But he says she's the ark. And so that's why he believes she ascended to heaven, because she's the ark. Also not something that I agreed with or can believe in really. And then he also said Mary didn't have any birth pangs when she had Jesus. And this was interesting because there is a prophecy in Isaiah. I can't remember which chapter of Isaiah. I wrote it down somewhere in my reading journal. I'm so sorry. I can't look at it right now because I'm doing a Get Ready With Me. But it's a prophecy that says, never has such a thing been seen, before her birth pangs come on her, basically the babe is born, something like that. And this was interesting. I had never heard this as a prophecy. I'd never heard that this prophecy in Isaiah was related to Mary. So I looked up what my Protestant commentaries say about it. And it's says basically that this is Israel. This is the church. And it's a prophecy related to that. So that was interesting. But since that's the only real biblical basis, again, I really feel like it was really stretching. And he would say the only rational interpretation, therefore, because of this one scripture, is my crazy interpretation. Like, he kept saying that this is the only rational interpretation. And I was always like, I don't think that's the only rational interpretation of this. I just don't. But, and he also quoted a lot of like early Christian, like apologists and writers and thinkers like Justin Martyr, who believed in Mary's sinlessness. And he's like, this was a really common belief in the early church. So that was interesting. I didn't know that. But I do think that the early church was wrong about several things. So I think they were wrong about that too. So yeah, I don't know. It was really interesting, and there was more to it even that I'm saying. So I'm really glad that I read it, because I feel like now I'm like, okay, I at least understand what they're saying now about Mary, whereas before I literally did not even know. So now I know, even though I definitely don't agree. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like Catholics are really good about looking at history and understanding the historical perspective, which is something that I think a lot of Protestants aren't super good at. But I think something Protestants are super good at is reading the Bible a lot. Like, there are Protestants I know who don't read anything but the Bible, hardly ever. I mean, it's just like, that's the only thing they read. And I think that if you're gonna read one thing, it should be the Bible. And I think Catholics maybe don't read it as often because they go to Mass and they have it read to them, and sometimes it's in like Latin, and they read a lot of other books, like they read about the saints and stuff like that. And so it's always refreshing to talk to a Catholic because they do have that historical perspective that I feel like the Protestant church is lacking. And there's so many other things that I love about the Catholic perspective. Like, I feel like their writing is better, like their imaginative writing, like their fiction is much better than Christian fiction. At least what I've read of it. Like, a lot of my favorite Christian authors actually are Catholics. They're not Protestants. So, yeah, I find the Catholic perspective really valuable, but in this case and in others that I've seen, it's not as biblically based. So that's, I guess, my general thoughts about it. It's not a super great review because I'm not like showing you all the specific evidence, but I'm just saying, for me, it wasn't convincing as far as the arguments it was making, but I still enjoyed it a lot. All right, I added some mousse to my hair and I hairsprayed it this side, and it still looks fuzzy. Ugh. That's okay. Next, we have Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris by Paul Gallico. And this also included, the audiobook I listened to also included Mrs. Harris Goes to New York. And this was like the perfect, slightly dull read until there were these moments of anxiety that kept happening, and twice it made me so anxious that it affected my sleep. So I ended up actually DNFing this. How far was I into it? I don't remember. I think, halfway through the first book. So honestly, I was enjoying it. Like, it was like probably 3-star. I mean, I thought it was actually immaculate for what it was doing. I just didn't really care that much about what it was doing, but it was actually perfect for a bedtime read. But then there would be these horrible moments of anxiety where I think the audio narrator was actually too good. Like, she was so emotional sounding that it actually got me emotional. I have a thing about older people crying and it just gives me so much anxiety. I just never want old people to feel like, she's not that old, but she's older, I should say. Older. Old people is obviously a stereotype, or not a stereotype. It's like a very general descriptor. When people who are older, like grandparents, for example, are crying, it's really upsetting to me, and I can't help being upset. So that happened twice because this is an older narrator. I was like, I cannot handle her crying. I can't handle it. So I stopped reading it. So basically what it's about is it's about a cleaning woman in England who is like, she's very sensible. She's a widow, and she's always done the sensible thing. It seems like she's that kind of person. And one day when she's cleaning, she runs across one of her people's whose houses she cleans, one of her customers. They have, is it a Gucci dress? I think it's a Gucci dress. That might not be. No, it's not a Gucci dress. It's one of those fancy dress companies. I'm so sorry. I should know. But this is what happens when I don't update you for 2 weeks. I lose the details on audiobooks. But anyways, it's like a really fancy dress company that you would know. That I just can't remember because I'm not that into fashion. Anyways, so her goal after seeing these beautiful dresses is I'm going to go to Paris and I am going to buy one of those dresses. But it's like way out of her price range. She has to save up for like 2 years. She actually gambles and wins at gambling, which her relationship with God it was interesting. The way she feels like he communicates to her, it's like very. Anyway, I'm sure it was a common view of God at the time. But anyways, it was funny and it was well done. And I definitely would have continued it if it weren't for the anxiety, if I could have just kept reading it as a bedtime story. But it wasn't interesting enough that I was going to continue it during the day. So generally the anxiety was related to big losses or hurtful things that were said to her. And so, yeah, I just feel like it was really well done, and I wish that I could continue it as a bedtime story, but I'm not going to continue it during the day. What I found lately is I don't listen to audiobooks during the day. I'm usually like listening to sermons or podcasts or other things in other languages, news, things that I can't listen to after 6 p.m. So that's why I DNF'd it. Definitely no shade to Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. I picked this up actually because Dia read something else by this author, and this title caught my eye, and it was available on audiobook through my library. So I was like, oh, I'll just try this one. It was made into a movie. It's probably cute. And it was cute. So thank you, Dia, for pointing it out to me. Maybe I'll watch the movie and that'll like reignite my interest in the book. I don't know. But I definitely liked the writing style quite a lot. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Next, I don't know why, I don't know. For a long time, I was not interested in picking this up, but when J.D. Vance became our vice president, I was like, I should really read this. So I finally put it on hold and I finally just listened to it. And honestly, that was interesting. There was a lot of crossover with Troubled, the foster care memoir that I read last month. And somebody in the comments said that. They were like, wow, that foster care memoir reminds me of Hillbilly Elegy, which I just reread. And I was like, me too, as I was listening to it, because they're both about the working class. Now, the foster care memoir, Troubled by Rob Henderson, that's about California working class, and it includes people of color. In fact, most of them, I think, are people of color. But no, there's white friends. He has white friends, too, that he talks about. So he talks about a lot in that book about the working class. Hillbilly Elegy is about the white poor in the South specifically, or the Appalachians specifically. So I'm trying to think what states, cities he grew up in, and Jackson was one of them, and I can't remember the other one. Anyways, he is pointing out in this book some of the problems that are faced by the white working class and how they can overcome those problems. It's kind of like this is how I grew up, and this is what went wrong with my upbringing and what's going wrong with a lot of people's upbringing in the white working class in the South. And here's what we can do to fix it. So in that sense, I mean, in the beginning, honestly, I was like, I don't know why I'm reading this. Because he even says at the outset, I'm definitely not somebody who's interesting enough or who has done anything interesting enough to deserve a memoir. I was like, why are you writing one then? I found out why. It's because he's trying to offer advice to the community in which he grew up, because he made it out. You know, he survived and is... I don't know if thriving is the right word, maybe. The way he describes it is he really has a lot of struggles as an adult. Like, he particularly describes the struggles that he has in his marriage due to all of the child what do they call them? It's like childhood traumas that happen to him. There's a specific word he uses for that. And childhood traumas meaning divorce, abuse, seeing someone else abused. There's like several things that he lists. And he's like, a lot of people among these white hillbillies is the word. Hillbilly is the word he uses. He's like, a lot of the kids have had one, if not more of these, and he'd had 7, and everybody in his family had like 7, you know what I mean? They had like a bunch of them. And so working through those things has been a challenge for him, even as an adult, because if a kid experiences those things, it can give them mental health problems when they didn't have them before. Like it can give them, their body, like a chronic level of anxiety, and where they're just chronically elevated and in anxiety. And, you know, the fight or flight, or what's the other one? Like standing still, that response, they're constantly in that response because of the childhood instability of their situation in childhood. So, yeah, he describes like the difficulties he has communicating with his wife, and like how amazed he was when he met her family, because nobody yelled at each other. They didn't talk about each other behind their backs. But he also makes sure to point, he really loves like his grandma and grandpa specifically, and his older sister. And his older sister, like him, has sort of made it out. And one of his aunts has sort of made it out and had successful marriages. But it's been a struggle for them all, trying to overcome the traumas of their childhood. So, and he describes some of the craziness that happens, like with his grandparents, like how ornery they were and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was an interesting story, and it also talked about why the working class has moved from Democrats to Republicans, which was interesting. He said it's because a lot of people were seeing they couldn't afford, you know, a lot of food to be put on the table, like just barely, but they were getting stuff taken out of their paychecks to go to their neighbor who could get a T-bone steak with what was taken out of, you know. So they're basically like, why does my neighbor get a T-bone steak when they're just on welfare and they're not working, whereas I'm working and I can't afford a T-bone steak on my work, you know? So he said a lot of the white working class saw that and was like, this isn't working, so we're going to become Republicans. That was his theory, which I thought was an interesting theory. So yeah. It was an interesting book, and it was a memoir that I listened to on audio, and it was gripping at times and emotional at times, and I don't think I would recommend it like as like everybody must read. It's not going to be like one of my favorites of the year, but I'm glad that I read it. Yeah, that's it for that. Okay, moving on. We have Reagan, his life and legend. If I can get it to come up. I don't know why I'm having trouble with that. There we go. By Max Boot. This is a biography of Reagan that I talked about a little bit in my last video. I had decided I'm going to at least get to the part where Reagan is president. And so I restarted listening to it because I was like, I'm not even to the part where he's president yet. I can't give up yet. I was like 34% in. I never made it. I didn't make it. I DNF'd it again. I DNF'd it right around 40% because it's just so relentlessly negative. And I want to be the kind of person who can read a really negative biography and then go find like a more positive one and kind of compare them and be like, oh, so this, and find my own sort of reckoning of his character. I would like to be a person who can do that. But I cannot keep listening to this book. It's like venomous towards Reagan. Like in the beginning, you're kind of like, okay. I mean, all the reviews were like, it's no hagiography. That is true, but that's an understatement. It's not just not a hagiography. The author does not like Reagan, you know? So I really struggle with it. If I ever did end up picking up another biography of Reagan that was maybe more middle of the line about him, or even like more positive, I might come back and try and finish this just for like a balanced perspective. But I think I just decided this one is not gonna be for me. It's just so negative. I don't like reading things that are that negative and like hateful towards people. I don't like it from the left or the right. I don't listen to podcasts that are like relentlessly negative about human nature and other people, because even though I think human nature is evil, and I think that's why we need Jesus, I don't really want to read about it. So, regardless, I am feeling like I do feel like I learned about Reagan through it, but I don't want to continue learning about Reagan through this book. So that is, I think, everything that I finished, but I will double check. Yep, that was everything. Thanks for keeping me company while I curled my hair. I honestly hate spending the time to curl my hair, and I won't do it anymore unless I can do something at the same time, like talk to someone or film a video. So thank you. Thank you for keeping me company. I think I am just gonna wrap it up here because I might have time to do it this weekend, but next week it's like, it changes to May midweek, and I probably won't have time to wrap it up again, like at the very end of the month. So I'm just gonna wrap it up now and give you my TBR for May. So my May TBR, honestly, pretty chill, pretty small. I haven't looked at what Crystal's book club book for May and June are yet. I need to do that. But I am still planning to read, I forgot to mention this in my last TBR, I'm planning to read The Fervor by Alma Katsu, which is a Japanese horror book. It's right there in the middle. So this is Crystal's Asian book club in her wonderful Discord. So I'm planning to read that. I'm also planning to read Thorny Hold by Mary Stewart, which I'm really excited about because Dia recommended it really highly at our last wrap-up of our favorites from Tiffany's Patreon. And I think she convinced many of us that we want to read Thorny Hold, which wasn't hard because we're all kind of Mary Stewart fans now. So that was exciting. I'm currently almost done with The Gabriel Hounds by Mary Stewart. For like the first 50 or 60%, I was like, no, I own it physically. I'm going to read it physically. And then when I realized I couldn't read it at night anymore because it was too exciting, I gave it like another week of trying to read it physically, like during the day. And I was like, no, I just need to listen to it. So since there's an audiobook available for The Gabriel Hounds, I'm finishing it on audio, and it's picked up so much. The first half, I was like, yeah, this is fine. This is like probably 3-star. Like, I'm enjoying it. The second half has been really fun and really exciting. So it's probably going to end up being high 3-star, maybe 4-star kind of a book. So maybe like right now, I feel like 70% feels low for it, but it's probably like a 76, 78%, something like that. I'm really enjoying it now. Okay, I'm also I'm like halfway through Howl's Moving Castle still. I haven't actually picked it up much this month because I've been having a really hard time reading because of anxiety. So I'll probably continue with that. I've got On the Social Contract by Rousseau out currently. I meant to read that for Feb Regency, but I didn't get a chance and I still haven't picked it up. But I have it out, so we'll see if I get to that. I've also got Revelation for Everyone by N.T. Wright because I'm still going through Revelation with a friend. And I'm really excited to study it with her. There's so much I don't understand about Revelation, and I've been reading like 3 commentaries to prepare for all of our meetings. But I felt like I should really read a book too. So I picked this one up. I don't know why this one specifically called to me, but I have read N.T. Wright before, maybe that's why. And it also says Revelation for Everyone, which I'm like, I'm everyone. I'm not a Bible scholar. Don't come at me with that stuff. Like, I think it's interesting, but it's probably a little over my head. So this one, I feel like not over my head. So that's kind of fun. I also checked out Escape from Camp 14 by Blaine Harden, which I actually read or listened to. I can't remember when it first came out, and it was really interesting because it's about a North Korean defector. I was like not wanting to listen to audiobooks anymore in color because I was just getting tired of it. And so I was like, okay, I should check out a North Korean defector memoir because those always make me really excited to continue listening because I just want to hear their stories, how they made it out, their thoughts on North Korea, if things could ever change there. I just really hope things change in North Korea. I really want unification. There's so many, I really want good things for North Koreans, and I feel awful about what happens there. So anyway, it's a pretty short book. It's only 6 hours. And I'm going to add some more mousse to my hair. So yeah, I reread it. I read it so long ago that I was like, I really want to reread this. And GRWM is coming up. So I would like to read this and maybe like one more before GRWM, because we always do a prayer meeting for North Korea. And I don't actually know if we're going to do it this year or not. We'll see if my fellow prayer warrior, Joanna, who has helped me in the past, is available this year. We'll see. I would love to do it if she is. So there's that. There's also Haruki Murakami's Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World. I'll show you guys in 1 second. Let me wash my hands. All right, we have the current Haruki Murakami I am reading. This is my second Haruki Murakami, and I'm very excited to check it out. It does have his signature terrible writing about women and bodies and sex. And honestly, it's interesting because the main character really does feel different than Tango or Aomame from QT84. I didn't really peg him as a character-driven writer, and I still don't, but they actually do have they have like a different character, so that's been interesting to see. This is like an older one. I think it was published in 98 or yeah, something like that, 95, something around there. So I'm buddy reading this with Michi. I was originally going to ask if she wanted to do a readathon, but then I realized I just need to prepare for GRWM with all of my energy because I don't have a lot of energy for readathons anymore. So we're just gonna discuss it. We're buddy reading it, and it was her choice because we're gonna read another one with Alana at some point, and that one I might see if they want to do a readathon for that because it'll be a little bit later. So maybe by then I'll have the energy again to organize a readathon. But for now, Michi and I are just like we're like, okay, we need something as a holdover until Alana's ready to read the next book. I think the Wind Up Bird Chronicle is the one we're going to read with Alana. But anyway, so I'm like 25% into the Hard-Boiled Wonderland. So I will let you know my thoughts on that when I finish it. And next we have The Hot Zone by Richard Preston. I've been wanting to read this for years. I actually listened to the audiobook, but it's like a shortened 3-hour version of it. And I heard of this because my biology teacher in high school made it assigned reading, and I was like, this sounds interesting. And then I learned a little bit about Ebola, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to learn about this. So I don't think it's actually like a threat to America right now, which is good, because yikes. But I really would like to learn more about it. So yeah, it's about an Ebola outbreak that actually makes its way to America. And it's a true story. Next, we've got, Cold Eternity. Oh, and here is The Hot Zone. It's like an older book by Richard Preston. Ooh, yeah, that's the one. And then we've got Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes, which is a sci-fi horror. This is like, I think her newest one. As soon as it was released, I was like, yes, I want it! Because I loved the last 2 books that I read from her. She might have one other book too that I need to check out. honestly, I just enjoy her writing so much. I wouldn't say it's like the best and that I would recommend it to everybody, but it's just what I want. It's exactly what I want. So very creepy and enjoyable. This one's a little bit shorter, actually, I think. So if you're like looking to try her out, maybe this would be a good one. But honestly, the second one that I read, but her first one, what's it called? Anyway, I would recommend her first book over this one. Let me see if I can like look it up. Yes, it's Dead Silence is the one I would recommend. I'm also listening to The God and the Gumiho. Part of the reason why I am in the middle of so many things is because if it gets too exciting, I have to stop. I can't just continue reading it or I won't be able to sleep. I feel like this color is too light for me in the summers. My face is turning into like ghostly white. I'm getting a lot of sun. I'm spending so much time out in the sun, which feels great on my body. I need it. I need that warm up. Anyway, The God and the Gumiho by Sophie Kim. This is a romantasy, I think. It's definitely a fantasy, and it really reads like it came out of Korea. It feels like more Korean than a lot of the fiction that I've read by like Korean Americans and stuff like that. Like it feels like very authentically Korean. I am loving this. I'm 32% in. I'm enjoying it so much. This is finally the Korean fantasy book that I've been waiting for and looking for and wanting. For so long, I really didn't find any. Like, I found things that I loved from Korea, but now I'm just like, if you love fantasy, check out The God and the Gumiho. I haven't finished it yet, so I'll let you know my final thoughts, but it's so good. I'm enjoying it so much. Yay. I'm also re-listening to Patriot. I think I already told you that. And I'm also reading Ultra 85. I'm like 25% into that. Is that right? No, my audiobook says 8%. I don't know where I am. And that one I haven't picked it up in a little over a week. So I keep having to go back and forth because certain things will work for me one night and then the next night I have to put it down and read something that I've like already read or that I'm already really like invested in. It won't take any work for me to get into it. Like it's been a challenge lately. Reading has been a challenge, but it's getting better. I'm recovering. Thank goodness. So I'll continue that. I like this one better physically reading it though. Listening to it on audio, I was like, there's a lot of slang, I would say. And so that to me usually makes it feel dated because a lot of this, it's like slang is already old. So that I don't love, but there's enough about it to love that I am still going to keep reading it, I think. This was recommended by my Korean teacher. Hyunwoo-san, who I don't know if he reads a ton. I think he does, but he works a lot, so he probably doesn't read as much as a booktuber. So I always will take recommendations with like a grain of salt from somebody who doesn't read as much as I do. Because those first reading experiences can be so powerful, and a lot of times if you've read a lot, it takes something kind of fresh and new to give you those powerful feelings. And so sometimes I don't feel the same way about something because I've read too many similar things. So anyway, I'm not trying to be a snob, anyways, I also have Kim-ju by Cho Nam-ju. Miss Kim Knows by Cho Nam-ju, which is a series of short stories. And I don't know if I'm going to get to it or not. I would love to. The Evil Librarian series by Brandon Sanderson. I'd love to check that out. Alana the First Adventure for our Tor Talon Universe read along. I'm so excited to read these. I got like a brand new beautiful set from the library. They just gave it to me because they love me. It was as a thank you for doing the Teen Film Reading Program. So super excited to start our readathon. Please join us if you're interested at all in checking her out. And then there's also a book that I'm going to be reading with Stephanie this month that I don't have written down here. Last month, it was that Chinese book with Stephanie. That's the one I'm referring to. I'm so sorry that I don't have it written down. I will put it in the description if I remember and I hear this. That's it. Thank you guys so much for keeping me company, and I will see you next month. And in fact, Tiffany will be here next weekend. Oh my gosh, Tiffany will be here. Not this coming weekend, but the weekend after that. So maybe I can do an update with Tiffany. Oh, that would be fun. I'm hoping to do a vlog, but I'm not finding a lot of time to edit lately. So I'll probably vlog it, but I don't know if you guys will see it anytime soon. Anyway, that's coming up. Look forward to it. Take care. Bye-bye.